please take your seats. So I will be very brief. I welcome you to this nice place for a long week of exchanges regarding the disaster resilience study project. And we have seen that we have a very dense agenda, a lot of panels, a lot of speakers, around 75 speakers. And this time I took it easy because I gave the work to you. And I will be at the back of the room and listen and relax. The work has been done before this event, so I guess that it will be quite fluid. Today I'm very pleased to welcome my head of unit, head of unit of the Secure Society Program, Nicolas Bessot, will make a welcoming address, and then we will pass the floor to Antonella Cavallo, who is moderating the session. Nicolas, please. More than a keynote, it's going to be a welcome also from my side, and apologies for my voice. Winter has come, and so this has impacted me now. So, from my side as well, welcome to this week and also to this CBRNe workshop. This has been put together by under the steer of the world experts of DRS policy, DRS topics, Philippe, from DG Home, and I will afterwards be followed by Philippe and Antonella, another world expert from our colleague DG Eco. But I will now just say a few words. What I would like to say first on the threats. The CBRN threats facing the world today remain very high. The threats are evolving and are still regarded as a serious concern for international peace and security. And it is important to recognize that there is a broad spectrum of threats that involve different types of CBRN material and different levels of technical complexity. As public authorities, our role is to fulfill public health and security requirements. We need to protect the population, society, property, the environment, and overall to build resilience. Non-state actors can easily exploit weak governance, fragmentation of responsibilities, lack of harmonized national preparedness, and to engage in illegal trafficking of CBRN material, sabotage, loss of control, criminal and unauthorized use of CBRN material. So, effective CBRN security requires cooperation. There's cooperation between and within governments, with the industry, civil society, even the media, and of course individuals, the civil society. At national level first, but also at regional and finally on a global scale. What about research? Since the early stage of civil security research, today Cluster 3 and the Horizon Europe, we covered research that matches technological and networking needs in the area of CBRN. And many of you have participated in large-scale projects funded under the 7th framework program, in particular the EDEN integrated project, which led to many further initiatives under H2020. CBRN is at the crossroad between civil protection and security, between intentional and accidental threats. It is mixing disciplines, tools, and technologies that are driven to respond to operational needs by first responders, emergency services, law enforcement authorities, and defense. And this is one of the few areas where coordination of a range of practitioners is mandatory. And your session today is a good illustration of this required list of expertise. Today we are gathering in a cluster fashion with a large representation of closed projects, ongoing projects, and projects that are about, that are just starting. The first two panels are at the core of cluster 3 orientations, mainly citizens' involvement in research, and capacity building and detection and monitoring of CBRN threats. The third panel will provide a snapshot about H2020 initiatives directed to support innovation for SMEs within the Encircle framework and projects that resulted from research gap analysis. The last session is mixing projects from different horizons and thematic areas, showing that CBRN is a cross-cutting issue. In your panel you will find projects funded under the DRS destination and FCT destination of the program, as well as capacity building projects funded by the Internal Security Fund and the ECO prevention programs. And so again, this is an excellent sign about synergy building from research to capacity building. So as Philippe said it himself, we have a very rich program for this session and for the whole week. So I hope you will enjoy today's discussion, and I thank you for your engagement and your active participation. Have a nice afternoon. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nicolas, for this welcome. I would like just to say a little word about a study that we are undertaking at Commission level on disaster scenarios. And I know that in CBRN you have worked with different types of scenarios. If any of your projects have knowledge about the existing scenarios that they are using for example, demonstration of tools and technologies, or development of new scenarios that are unexpected threats, for example, please contact me, because we need this input from the project, and I will certainly come back to you in this respect. Now, I'm very happy to welcome the lady moderator of this session, Antonella Carvalho from DG ECHO. Antonella, the floor is yours.
Many thanks, Philippe. Thanks also, Nicolas. Thanks for asking me to moderate this afternoon's panels. It is always a pleasure to come to these events because they are really the sort of image of what we try to do every day in our job, to bring together all the different resources, all the different projects, all the different capabilities, and make sure that we are all connected, that we are all working as one commission together with member states. I am from the European Civil Protection, the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, UCPM, as we are called. We are a mechanism that includes 27 member states and 10 participating states. And under the UCPM, we also develop CBRN capabilities. We have a number of capabilities that member states committed, that were already pre-existing in member states, and that they pre-committed so that they can be available to other member states in case of need. And on top of that, the last resort sort of capabilities are represented by Rescue. So under Rescue, I coordinate the development of CBRN capabilities and stockpiles. Something that roughly includes around 1 billion euros worth of capabilities and stockpiles at the moment. And also acknowledging here that a big part of the project does come from HERA. In this respect, over time, I have come across a number of the projects that will come on stage this afternoon. And in particular, let's start already with the very first panel, where I'm going to welcome panelists Grigori Harveneanu, Marie-Hélène Bonneau, Sabina Magalini, and Olga Vibornova, together with the moderator Denis Jost. And I'm particularly thankful for the work that we have been able to include in Rescue from some of these projects. I mentioned, for example, Proactive and the contribution and the reflections we have been able to use on the side of the mass decontamination capabilities, and how we can make sure that vulnerable people are treated in a respectful way that can also help better their recovery. E-Notice has also been a very important project that has shown also us the value of networks and the value of community. Something that I was just saying to Grigori before coming on stage is that when competent people are matched with passion, we can achieve so much more. And certainly out of the group of CBRN projects that I've seen under CERIS, no one is short of passion. So on that note, I would like to welcome on stage for the first panel, Denis, Grigori, Marie-Hélène, Sabina, and Olga.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Denis. I am a member of the CERIS group, and I am also working for the French firefighters in the health services. And this topic this afternoon, the first session, will deal with the involvement of citizens in CBRN research and innovation. And this is quite to me, this is quite an important issue that has been considered very recently, but should be at the top of the object priorities, I think, in CBRN research and innovation. So I will have the pleasure for the session to first introduce our four panelists. Marie-Hélène Bonneau, she is the head of the security division at UIC, which is based in Paris. UIC is the World Professional Association representing the railway sector. She is currently coordinating a new project called IMPRESS that just started last June. Grigore Avarneanu, who is a doctor in psychology, is a senior researcher at UIC, so the same institute, and he was coordinating the EU project that just finished called Proactive. Olga Vibornova, should I present her? I don't know, everybody knows her. She's a senior researcher at the Center for Applied Molecular Technologies at the Catholic University of Louvain in Belgium. She manages many EU projects in the field of security. She is also a member of the CERIS group, so she is one of my sisters in this big family. And she managed eNotice, and she will have a few words on eNotice too at the beginning of the session. And finally, Sabina Magalini, she worked as an emergency surgeon at the hospital. She is now part of the Catholic University of Roma. She is actively involved in EU projects, mostly related to medical security issues, recently to cyber security, and she contributed to the project including, for which she will say a few words as an introduction. So the plan in this session is to have about 5-minute presentation of the different projects we have just mentioned, and then we will go for a round table with different questions related to the title of the session, to the involvement of citizens in research and innovation on CBRN issues. So we start maybe with Sabina, please.
Good evening to everyone. I am a step-in for Luigi De Dominicis, who could not come, and he is the project coordinator for including. So as Jessica said, I'm a medical doctor, so I will speak about things that are relative to medicine, a little bit about the project including. And can you put the slides up? The ones of including that we sent. If we don't have them, I can just illustrate. It's not this one. You're not going to do it. I go back to my place. The one that says including, they're just 3 slides. Go back, one back. Okay, that's it. Okay, including project is a 5-year project, and it's the innovative cluster for radiological and nuclear emergencies. It's a 5-year project. We have gone 4 years into the project, and we're going to finish in June of this coming year. There were 15 partners and 10 member states. 5 years, I said, it lasts. And there were research organizations, academia, and 4 groups of first responders, and also industries and So just to remember the objectives of the project, because the project did not deal with the involvement of citizens. Anyway, we did our best to do it. The objective of this project was to map the scenarios for nuclear security and how they are evolving, and if there were training programs and exercises to be done among member states, and also to develop, as was in the CSAs of 5 years ago, a network of facilities for training in nuclear security. Now, I speak from the Italian side. We don't have nuclear power plants, so the problem for us is like an intellectual problem more than really a practical problem. But with what there is, we have dealt with these topics. And also, at the end of the project, there is the ambition to deliver a platform, a portal that can be used for federated exchanges between the partners of the projects and also whoever is interested in this. What we did that is really relevant is the organization of these exercises, which are the joint actions. Can you go forward, please? Next one. Okay, these are the main ones that we have done. The one in June 2021 in the Pireo Sport, where there were military and the people of the port management of the containers and the people that were working there. Then we did in Italy a big exercise with an orphan source that was found in the forest, and there we had involvement of a lot of students of the middle school and lyceum, and they were really a big group. There must have been 40-45 students that were acting as actors. Then we had Saclay, which is practically there was no involvement of citizens. We had more a show of technologies of all the projects and in the big CA premises. And then we had in Bologna also an exercise that was more like a tabletop, but it dealt with citizen involvement in the sense that it analyzed all the systems that could do damage to citizens with the plumes of the diffusion of the radionuclear components and that. Then in Budapest we had an exercise that was mostly on the forensic of nuclear accidents, because often when you have an accident you cannot find the proof, the evidence, because no one is storing what you find. And so there are different ways that they explained in Budapest. There is a center that is working with this. And we will have the last exercise in Porto in the spring, and also the closing in Dresden in the final conference. Okay, thank you.
It should be the first slide. So, good afternoon, everyone, in this room here and online as well. So, my quick presentation of Proactive is very minimalistic. It's just one slide, and this is because the project should be already quite well known in the community. We presented it several times and a couple of times on this very podium. So what I really want to do today is to remind you the essential things. The first one is that Proactive is one of those projects which looked at the problem of CBRN from a different angle compared to most ongoing projects working in CBRN. And this angle had a particular focus on the human factor, on applied psychology, on behavioral science. So essentially what we did in 2018 when we wrote the proposal was to think of the human factor and the citizen, and put the citizens where they belong. That is to say, at the core, at the heart of the CBRN preparedness. And when I talk about preparedness, I mean to help improve public awareness. This is one dimension which was for a long time a bit neglected. So trying to optimize preparedness and response from this perspective. And as a research and innovation action, in terms of research, we use a plethora of mixed methods from social science and humanities, such as desk research, surveys, interviews, focus groups, workshops, in which we engage actively with the user community. The user community comprising practitioners on one side and the civil society representatives on the other side. So there were a large number of organizations and individual experts that engaged with the project and were involved in these research activities. So research activities over the 4.5 years' time of project implementation were progressively translated from research and preliminary recommendations to more actionable resources for all these target groups. So that's more on the research side. And then on the innovation side, we also developed a number of tools mainly for practitioners and for the civil society organizations. And here you can see on this slide just a few of them, and the ones which are more relevant for the public, for the general public, and for civil society. All these tools are also available here, so we put them physical copies on the tables at the entrance. So it's essentially public information materials for the society, a smartphone app for the general public, recommendations for practitioners and policymakers on how to better communicate in a more inclusive way so that the messages are more effective for all target groups, and an ed memoir to help practitioners and training center conduct exercises, field trials and exercises and demonstrations with citizens from local communities. And all the results are equally available in the final brochure that we developed and published at the end. So I think these key outputs are useful and have also a direct link with today's topic of our panel. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I will give you a quick overview on the IMPRESS project, which is funding by the ISP fund, the Jérôme Fund. It's a project addressing terrorist threat in the framework of rail station and trains. And IMPRESS stands for Improving Railway Security Through Awareness and Training. So we started on 1st of June for 2 years, and the project is coordinated by UIC. The main objective of the project is, of course, to improve the protection of trains and stations against terrorist-related threats, CBRNe being one of these threats that will be addressed. Another objective is to enhance the cooperation with the police and all the good practices in train and stations. And I would say the originality of this project is to raise security awareness of the stakeholders who are working in the train and in the station. So it's not about raising awareness toward the railway staff, but rather to address the staff who is not from the railways, but who is working every day in the train and the station. Could be the shop owners, could be the cleaning staff, could be the restoration staff, and to raise awareness on the threat, and especially on the CBRNe threats. So the consortium is composed of the 4 main railways in Europe that you can see on the slide: FS in Italy, NS in the Netherlands, PKP in Poland, and SNCB in Belgium, and is supported also by the German Police University. We also have an advisory board which is composed of rail companies, authorities representatives, to really cooperate together and come with guidance, awareness material that can be useful in train and stations. So the The organization of the work is quite classical, with a first work package on training needs assessment. Second one, we will develop the training programs for the target we are going to have defined in the previous work package. And then we will test these training modules with our rail partner, so it would be in the format of exercise or training, physical training or online trainings. The idea is to test them, to assess, and to update them according to the result of the evaluation. So the final expected results is first we start with identifying the training gaps. Then we will have a security training modules to be developed and one dedicated for CBRNe. We will develop also training for trainers, a tool for security awareness campaign, and as already said, enhanced cooperation with the police. So that's it for the IMPRESS project, and thank you for listening. Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will speak about the new project which has not started yet. We start on the 1st of January next year and we run for 2 years. This Notice 2 project, which is a European network of training centers for preparedness to CBRN events. It is actually the continuation of our Notice networking project, which many of you know already, but this time this project is shorter. It is only 2 years and it is really operationally focused on we explore the gaps and needs which were identified during the 6 years of Notice networking project. Those gaps and needs which are really most urgent in our opinion. So they include such things as decontamination of assistive devices for disabled that are used by disabled persons. For example, this is something what we learned from the exercises with Proactive when we in a Notice did 3 exercises with Proactive, and we discovered that first responders are not really prepared sufficiently in dealing with the public, with the population. So when they saw, for example, disabled people on wheelchairs or with other assistive devices, it was very obvious that they do not have the standard operating procedures to deal with such kind of devices. For example, how to decontaminate them, and they really put them aside. They did not do anything with them. So, of course, we leave the human factors and communication aspects to Proactive, but we in a Notice we speak more, we look into the technical aspects. So, okay, this decontamination of assistive devices and the guidelines and recommendations what we are going to produce in Notice 2, it is something very practical, very special what we are looking into. And of course we have some other objectives in the project, but for the I will speak briefly about them, but for this panel we will focus on this citizens dimension. So we have 8 partners in the consortium. The majority of them come from Notice, and we have a new partner who was not in Notice but was in the network, in the larger network of CBRN training centers. It is Fondazione Safe. They are bringing the important aspect of virtual reality, extended reality training in CBRN. Okay, about one of the objectives I already spoke about. It is this producing of guidelines, recommendations for decontamination of assistive devices. Also, we want to develop several things. So, for example, example, we want to select a few, for example, four CBRN courses, and to ensure that the contents of these courses is updated. It is up to date. The contents is reflecting the emerging needs, threats, so that the learners really benefit from it and not repeat all the time the same things, but we are updated. Another thing what we absolutely revealed as something absolutely urgent for first responders is to create somehow summarized safety security data sheets, so that when they go for the response, they have a condensed information what to do in this response. So we want to develop the methodology for creation of such safety security data sheets, and to agree between all the training centers, all the partners, about what should be the composition of such a data sheet. Then CBRN-based resources, we want to put it into the library. Of course, it will be available for the community. We want to continue in the spirit of notice with joint activities, and that will be primarily done, not anymore field exercises, because in this project it's not possible, but it will be in the form of simulation exercises and tabletops. We will have 4 such tabletops. And virtual reality scenarios will be tested if it is appropriate or not, so we will play with it a lot in the project, and see further how to test and validate innovative technologies during the joint activities. Speaking specifically about the citizens dimension in Notice 2, so when we will work with the recommendations and guidelines for this decontamination of assistive devices, of course we absolutely need the recommendations, the opinion of the final users, so the patients who are using these devices, because most probably there are aspects which we did not think about when we go for this topic. So we are going to reach out to these patients through the home expertise of Université Catholique de Louvain, because our other lab is the Institution for Society and Health, and they have the link with the Knowledge Center, Health Center in Belgium, and Conseil Supérieur National des Personnes Handicapées in Belgium, which is also in turn linked to many other countries. So we are going to have pretty many patients in the supporting committee, which will form the advisory board of the project. And through this, we will communicate with the patients, we will collect the information for the project, and physical and online meetings with the patients will be organized. So we are planning to have the information directly first-hand from the patients, from the citizens. That's it about the Notice 2. So, future project, but we are looking forward to share with you very soon the actual results and to discuss while it is running.
So, as was reflected in these 4 presentations, you understand that in the last years, the focus on CBRN incident management was on the responders, because for responders it's already quite challenging to manage such incidents. You understand that they have to manage PPE, specific protection, which they do not use on a daily basis. They have to manage mass decontamination, which is quite challenging. They have to manage hazards that for most of them they hardly know or are not visible, which is also quite challenging. The golden hour, they have to be fast, to respond fastly. There are some psychological effects of these CBRN agents. They do not always understand the semantics. So if you are in the position of responders, it's already quite challenging to respond to such incidents. Now, if you think of victims, you are a citizen, try to imagine what you could feel when you face such an incident. Hopefully there are not many. So now we start this roundtable, and with thinking of citizens in the place of citizens. And so my first question to the panelists will be, you involve citizens, the population, global population, naive in terms of CBRN knowledge. Why do you consider it is important, and how did you manage to get the volunteers, the citizens, into your project? So maybe we can start with you. You can come here.
What I forgot about when I had the presentation before is the big exercise we did in Rome, because we worked a whole year on it, and so probably we said to be short. We had a big exercise a few months ago with the receiver, the hospital being the receiver of contaminated, traumatized patients, which is something that is quite unusual. It doesn't happen often, and hospitals don't know how to behave in this sense. So we put up all the standard operative procedures, and it was a big joint action. The accident happened in ENEA in Casaccia, which is the coordinator of the project, and Policlinico Gemelli, my hospital, was the receiver. When you talk about citizens, naturally citizens, as I told you, including, there were not so many citizens because it was not the objective of the project. We involved university students, and we involved people from middle school and the Lyceum in Finland. In Rome, if you think of the citizens, doctors are not first responders, except for emergency medical services. Hospitals are usually first receivers. They are, let's say, a little bit more removed from the accident, and that is why there is not good training for these realities. In a way, we speak about first receivers. For these people, the hospital did a lot. This exercise was really a turning point, because it is not one of the scenarios we face normally. Normally, hospitals do hospital surge exercises once every year or once every 2 years. That's mandatory by law, at least in Italy. But these kind of accidents, since I was telling you, in Italy we do not have this risk, that it's not so elevated. It is very, very rare that you do it. In this case, thanks to including, we managed to do this exercises, doing the training for 1 year, to train the people that are working in the hospital are not doctors, they are nurses, they are assistants to medicine, they are the administrative people, they are the police, they are the firefighters, are the ones. We have 25 firefighters in our hospital. They know how to put up the tent and everything, but all the other people don't know precisely what to do. So these exercises were good for involving them. And this is what we did for citizens. Also, there were some bystanders that were looking. For these people that are patients, because these exercises happen close to our emergency ward. You know, when you go into the emergency ward, there's a lot of chaos around, and so they saw that we were doing the exercises. This is a kind of awareness raising that is very important, because it's important that they realize if something like this happens, that you are ready. It's like a good example, a best practice that we did.
If I understood well, Sabina, of course citizens are not only, we should not consider only the people who just are passing through a scene, a site where the incident happened. There are also people working at the hospital, so professionals, or people working in a railway station. Maybe Marie-Hélène, could you say a few words on why do you consider it was important to work with citizens, and how did you manage to get them in the project?
The project just started, so the aim is to involve the citizens.
How will you manage that?
How we will manage. In fact, in train and station, there are millions of citizens every day, and these places are public spaces that can be easily targeted by terrorists. So even if CBRNe threat is increasing, it's still a bit niche in the railway still a lot to do on the CBRNe threat. There is a good example with the attack in Japan with the sarin gas, where we realized that there is very few material to manage such a crisis, and there are really a lack of preparation for this type of event. So, in fact, we are in the rail environment. We are doing a lot for citizens with campaigns such as see something, say something, but not so much regarding how to react when something happens. And that's why this idea was born with Impress to look at what the railways could do to help, in fact, the first responders, the police in these matters. And we came with this idea to train the people who are in the station and the train every day. So for rail staff, it's not such challenging, but because it's already included in the training modules, etc. But for those who are not railway staff, such as the, like I mentioned, the restoration staff, the shops, the training, the cleaning staff also, how to raise awareness, how to come with some, I would say, easy program to be aware and to know how to react. Before the first responders arrive, there are some minutes where things can be done to save lives, and it's very important to know these few recommendations, to know also how to behave once the first responders are there, and to react properly. And so in this project we will focus on the railway staff and staff working in the station, not directly to the citizen, but still everyone everywhere should, it's a matter for every citizen to know how to really act in such a situation.
Thank you, Marianne. So what you are saying is actually citizens are the very first responders. They're not the first, they are the very first responders. And also, one point I'd like to mention here is that usually responders are not used to work with citizens. And they expect the citizens to do things, but they have never demonstrated that or experienced the citizens' reaction in such incidents. So this is, from what when I was hearing you, one of the main advantages to know how the citizen would react if they are not educated, if they have no knowledge on what to do. And so in this respect, this is quite interesting and important.
And it could be quite specific in the train or in the station, because it's a public spaces. So the rules could be different from other public spaces. So that's why also we want to really focus on train and station. Yeah.
Thank you. So Grigore, you work with mostly with vulnerable population. So could you say us a few words on the challenge of recruiting vulnerable population in your exercises?
Yes. So first of all, just to complement before recruitment, I think indeed it's worth emphasizing that working with citizens in research and innovation action is really crucial. I think it's an essential element in order to be able to achieve exploitable outcomes and useful outcomes. And I would just like to recall, if you think of the working program, for example, for photographing under which we work, it was called Protecting Security of Europe and its Citizens. Now it's cluster 3, it's civil security for society. So I think the core element we need to emphasize, how do we do research for citizens and society if they are not involved? And I remember the core recommendations of the community of users at the time. We cannot have research and innovation actions without the end users in the consortium, in the project team. I think now we're moving on, and we say also it's a key issue to have the ultimate end users on board as well. And it has been said, you call them naive, maybe people. I tend to call them lay persons. It's not a negative connotation, but we just have to think of all the fellow people in the streets when an incident happens. They are indeed the zero responders, the immediate responders, the potential facilitators in case an incident happens. It's also available our feeling is that they were not prepared, because every time we contacted them, they were scared, they backed off, and it was very challenging to have them on board. So then we had this approach to include them in the extended network of stakeholders, and there were more than 50 civil society organizations recruited during 4 years' time that were actively involved in the exercises and in the research actions. So we have to find ways to involve them. We don't have the magic solution. That's what worked for Proactive, and I think now maybe also civil society is more mature, and they are willing to, if we contact them tomorrow to build a consortium, we will find more associations willing to partner. But essential, I think the key thing I want to highlight is that we need their feedback. We need their input, we need their feedback. We have to co-create and co-construct our research results with them. Also, if we develop and validate tools, their feedback is equally important. The end users, the first responders, yes, of course, it's a core thing we already use, but the citizens as well, because we may have a perfect tool for first responders, but if it's ineffective for the general public, then I don't think the response will be effective. So that would be my main message.
Maybe a few words on the vulnerable population, on the specific category of the population on CBRN, vulnerable for CBRN,
This
in the CBRN context.
This indeed, it's an interesting discussion. In Proactive, we used a very wide definition of vulnerability, and we know that, especially in CBRN, everyone is more or less vulnerable. Maybe the solution we employed in the end is to talk about functional vulnerability. And we can think for any type of incident. You have a large explosion, there's a big noise, probably everyone would be in the area would have a hearing impairment for a few minutes. So how would you communicate with people in this situation? So obviously vulnerability can be linked to the fact that the person is living with a form of disability, but it can also be linked with a certain skill that it's temporarily unavailable. Think of a tourist in a big capital. Maybe I can give the example of the Olympic Games, which will take place next year in France. There will be tourists from all over the world, and if they don't speak the local language, and the first responders mainly speak the local language, there's a communication problem. So we can also see vulnerability just in terms of communication, getting the message to its target, having an effective interaction during the crisis response between the rescuers and the potential victims. So in terms of vulnerability, this would be the approach, I think. We have to think very largely and work with people that master this topic, and they can explain that everyone can be vulnerable, they can self-identify as a vulnerable person or not.
Thank you, Vigor. Olga, would you like to add a few words on this question of why is it important to work with citizens, and how do you manage to get them in the exercises and training?
Yes, so our challenge in the notice when writing this directive was to actually in every training center which hosted the exercise of proactive had to reach out to the corresponding civil society organizations to help to recruit these people, to actually organize it. And this is how it all started, because to tell you the truth, before training centers and first responders, we did not really think about it. And the collaboration with Proactive was eyes-open from this point of view. And it really revealed enormous space of research activities, of development activities, because as I mentioned, that's why we proposed this Notice 2 project, because we revealed certain gaps which are really gaps and needs which are so important for dealing with the population. So this is how it started, and then we started to look into technically how actually first responders deal with the citizens. A lot of challenges were revealed. Then I fully agree with Grigori, very good point, that actually in the crisis situation everyone becomes vulnerable. citizens, we cannot underestimate the people who are willing to understand and to know the procedures, to be involved very actively. It was also, by the way, good to see that, yes, there were, of course, many organizational challenges involving the citizens, because it is about medical insurance, about discussing the conditions under which they can participate in the exercise. Many. Okay, we can speak for hours about it. However, there was an interest, and they wanted to do it, and they were, even people disabled in the wheelchairs, they were willing to make an effort and to really participate and do it, because they felt the need, the interest to do it. This is something very important to me to understand, that involvement of citizens, yes, from an organizational point of view it is challenging, but actually it is important and it is feasible task, because for first responders to know what to do and how to do it is extremely important. Of course, they are well trained for it, and we need to continue the training based on revealed gaps and needs. However, raising awareness among the population and so that people know what to do in case of a crisis situation. Of course, it is based on the well-identified the risks for a particular area, for example, for people who live or use very often the train stations, or who live next to the nuclear plant, for example. There are different types of things, but it is important to understand what can be done, and people are willing to do it, and we just need to find the ways to involve more and more, and to engage people into exercises and to teaching, and I have some more ideas about what else can be done besides the projects. But okay, we can speak about it later if we have time, but anyway, I think it's extremely important to continue to do it.
Thank you very much. So maybe from what I've heard from all of you, you get some positive feedback from the citizens working with responders. You also probably get some good feedbacks from responders working with citizens if they are not used to that. And so my next question would be about specific tools that you developed during the project, or you thought it would be interesting to develop for the citizen benefit, to manage, to be helpful in the education and of the citizens, and maybe in the sense of rescuing them by responders. What specific tools were developed during your different projects for the citizens?
For the citizens, including nothing, but I just wanted to make a point that you learn to do something if you have a real risk. I don't know if you know anything about the Stop the Bleed campaign that originated in the United States. From the mass shootings in the school, the American College of Surgeons said, okay, we have to teach people how to stop the bleed, otherwise a lot of people are going to die before the responders get there. From that, we have an enormous course that is all over the world. In 3 years, everyone knows how to do a stop the bleed. Okay, because that was born from a real risk. The perception was there. Okay, for CBRNe, this is a little bit different. And the second point is, as they correctly said, it is very difficult to involve the population groups, because I'm a doctor, so I go looking for patient forums, patient associations, etc. There are maybe 3, 4, 5 in all Europe that are willing or capable to participate in a European project. Because you need to speak English, you have to know how to do all the paperwork, etc., etc. So if a motion could be made, is that I think a point should be put that they have to be more citizen association, and they have to be more available, or we have to be more able to go towards them. For the tools, this comes out of another project. It's called the Nightingale, of which Eleftherios will probably speak the day after tomorrow. Apps for citizens who knows how to use them. There are many apps and a lot of ways of tailoring them exactly to the population you need. Okay. And the other important thing is that technology today is getting cheaper and cheaper. Okay. So as we in one project we are designing some sensors to see the pressure of the patient, really cheap, that you can put on traumatized patients. Maybe if there was a way of doing
The second tool we developed, it's more in line with the contemporary society. It's a mobile app. For smartphone, which was designed as a larger proactive crisis communication system. But we think that with the mobile app we can reach more people. Everyone has a smartphone; they can download it, and it can be used in several ways. Also as a two-way communication with first responders or for witnesses in case an incident occurs, but also to raise awareness and contribute to the overall preparedness, because it includes a library of resources and public information materials, and other materials can be included there in general terms, and then people can access those easily. The app was also co-created with practitioners and citizens, so the content and the features we included in the app have come from them, from the end users. They told us what to include, what to exclude, how it should look like, and we use the principles of universal design to design it so that it can be inclusive and used by all people. So two main tools for the citizens, and then there are two tools as well that we developed, not directly for the citizens, but mainly for policymakers and also for practitioners and training centers, that can have an indirect positive effect for citizens. So the first one is to guide on how to better communicate in times of crisis, so more inclusive crisis communication. We co-developed this with another ongoing EU-funded project, and we endorsed the message with other system projects with the notice with including and other projects from the DRS cluster. And the ideas are simple. We have to communicate in a more accessible and inclusive way, to consider all groups. We have to have actionable instructions. We need to have a trustable communication. We have to focus on relevant things and communicate in an understandable way. So it's 5 principles that can be improved and applied in any type of communication. And the last tool, which can have a crucial impact, is dedicated to practitioners organizing training exercises and training centers. So it could be also of use, for example, for eNotice 2. It's all the lessons learned from Proactive on how to involve vulnerable citizens in training exercises. It's really all the lessons learned, how to recruit the volunteers, how to better consider their needs. And this was very challenging in Proactive, but we noticed a huge benefit. And I'm happy to see that some training centers already take the message, and they're implementing these lessons learned. So 4 major tools, I would say, in Proactive, and they're all available.
Thank you, Grigor. So, Marie-Hélène, how will you benefit from Proactive in your project?
That's what I was about to say. Of course, we will use the results from Proactive. The main tools that we will develop in press are training and awareness modules.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the phase of defining these modules. In fact, the challenge will be to co-create, because we will do it with experts, attractive material. Because if we want people in the station to use it, it needs to be attractive, it to be playful. So it's one of the challenges to do something which people will use and really get the advantage of using it and playing a bit. So another challenge will be to assess the efficiency of these modules, and exercise based on all the lessons learned could be organized to see before being trained and after what is there any improvement. So these are the ideas at the moment in this.
Sure.
Just to add something, our society has gone through COVID. The project that everybody was talking about is COVID Fund, which was a project on information in COVID situation. It was one of the projects that was funded during the emergency. And we worked also on that project, so I know what he's talking about. But one thing it seems today that we are forgetting everything that has happened, all the lessons we have learned knowledge from the reciprocal lessons learned, I think would be very important.
Yeah, very important point. So, unfortunately, the time is running. My last point would be what next? How would you propose to consolidate what you have done already? And I know interest is already in this mind, but for maybe Sabina and Olga and Grigore, how would you consolidate what has been done with the citizens so far in your future project? How do you see the future and from a long-term perspective, working with citizens?
5 years ago, we were asked to put in first responders, practitioners that didn't participate to the European budget. A lot of effort has been done. A lot of people the community has wanted. Now we need the citizens. It's important to see if the citizens are there to collaborate with us. We have to give them some kind of structure to help them. This is what is important. Then there are plethora of projects and a lot of interesting ideas who wants to participate. But if we don't give this community a way of participating with us to the projects, it's going to be difficult because you have to chase them at the last moment. Would you participate with me? So I think that's a little bit of common problem.
So how to maintain this energy on citizens.
Yes, indeed, I think, as I mentioned, I believe that we absolutely need to continue to involve the citizens because they are not only ultimate end user of all the technologies and all the procedures what are happening and everything what is happening in case of crisis and CBRN response, but they are also the very first responder in the case of crisis. And then maybe I can dare to share my own views, something that goes beyond maybe projects. So in projects, in exercises, we discussed it a lot already, and it is the right way in my opinion, and we shall continue and do it further. But maybe besides projects, so based on the reviewed risks in a particular area, for example, I can easily imagine that more groups of population can be in principle involved into exercising, training, or at least information exchange. For example, I can easily imagine that some retired military officers, CBRN officers, might be willing to share the lots of experience, lots of knowledge gained, for example, at schools, at colleges, at universities, so that to cover much more wider groups of population than just particular associations of civil society. Because, okay, not every citizen is part of some association. So by this, it would be possible to engage more people into these courses, training, teaching, at least starting from some basic knowledge about what kind of risks can be in principle, how to wear PPE, personal protective equipment, what kind of drugs, antidotes can be used, maybe to have them at home. Well, it depends, of course, to what level of complexity and how far we want to go in this, and there should be political will about it, and the willingness of the society to do it. But in principle, to me, everything is feasible and not so complicated. Should there be will to do it?
Maybe Grigore, one word on the specific issue of involving children at school. How do you see the challenge in the future?
More difficult question. We don't have a clear answer to that, but I think that the answer is yes, we have to, for example, try to work with schools to involve children. This was one of the most challenging elements we had in our exercises, involving children and working with schools. But I think we just need to, at least what we try to do now is to push it forward other branches may be interested to join exercises in the future. I think there's a lot to do in terms of communication. And this is, I think, the main idea forward for us. It seems simple and essential, but I think a lot of change can happen just by changing communication and improving some aspects there. For me, it's one of the biggest gaps we identified also in the exercises. To think of the interaction between first responders and the rescuers and victims. From all the interaction dimensions, the communication every time in all three exercises in different countries, different contexts, seem to be the lowest, to get the lowest rating by observers, by citizens. So citizens have a very high expectation for a very good quality communication even from the first moment, and we notice that it's not something that, for example, the rescuers, the first responders always prioritize. They tend to be more focused on the action, on extraction, on triage. So maybe there are things that can we further, we can work more to merge this gap of expectations and victims to learn more about what the first responders are doing and what they need to do. And on the other side, first responders doing maybe a bit more effort to give the key methods, some keywords maybe to some victims from the very first moment, for example. It could be an idea to take forward in next exercises and projects.
Hélène, maybe one word on in your project you are addressing the terrorist attack globally. So how about the idea of integrating CBRN hazard into an all hazard approach in educating the citizens? Is it the approach you will follow?
Yeah, it will be the approach perhaps with specific action on specific threats, but this is the overall approach in the railways. In fact, it's the role of the railways is to run trains.
Yeah.
It's not so. It's a cooperation with the police, and of course, railways have a security plan, including an awareness campaign, and more globally regarding terrorist threats. And for sure, it's a cooperation with the police. We cannot do it alone on the rail sector. And our role as UIC and UIC Security Platform is to raise awareness toward our members on this issue, specific CBRN, because it's not always an issue in all countries, but to raise it. So it's really the role of UIC to disseminate. We have tools for sharing guidance and push as much as possible all the results that we develop in the project.
Okay. Another question maybe in the room?
Just a comment. We did not make such database in Notice, for example, because I know for sure that there is a company, and I can give you the contact because they made such a database, so I have a good reference for that.
Good. Another question maybe before we finish the session? Yes? Thanks. I'm Zoltan Silke from Silke and Company, and we are working on it. On Thursday, John and Tom will tell you more about the project Peers, which is actually doing CBRNe coordination support, actually collecting all product services, events, stakeholders, stories, and standards with help of feedback on CBRNe events, and in a way which can be made available to the public. So we remove all the sensitive information, indicate where you can get into more information if you wish. You have to contact. It will provide the public information for citizens. It will provide training in another project, which is called Be Prepared, we started recently. We will turn this into educational content in virtual reality and in mobile games for every citizens. And all of your contents, stories, everything is more than welcome here. Your platform. Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much. Antonia, would you like to say a word maybe? Before we conclude then.
Thank you very much for this very enriching conversation about these topics. I think like we have learned a lot about what has been done on communication, but you have also been so generous to give us some lines about what also needs to happen more. And to that side, we have learned that there is much more that needs to be done on communication. We need to involve citizens, associations, and NGOs, ideally citizens, but we hear the difficulties. But I also heard in what was shared that we need to be persistent, and we are just at the beginning of involving citizens more in CBRN, in a topic that has been a taboo until very recently. But in a way or in another, Ukraine, and the war have really accelerated this process. And I personally, as European Commission, I dream actually of a European resource, for example, that can be translated into multiple languages and can be distributed to European media about CBRN, so that if something happens, we will not be in the hands of disinformation campaigns, but we will be able to have a very common front when it comes to public information. We can hope, of course, to progressively train, citizens, etc., but we need to also be more proactive and expect that whatever happens will be unexpected to a large extent to most people. And so to that end, the communication, like what was also shared here, made me think about the effects of an incident beyond the scene, right? Beyond where the crisis happens. And CBRN, as we know, are very much psychological disasters. And so what is then the responsibility also of communicating beyond what's happening, at the incident scene, and how can we work then with citizens, with all the associations, with all the potential, also as we heard, shops, bakeries, and all of these people that find themselves in the system of communication. How can we better work together to make sure that we have really a more systemic approach and proactive approach to communication. Very enlightening conversation. Thanks so much. Please, let's give another round of applause to Denis, Grigore, Marie-Hélène, Sabina, and Olga. Thanks very much for your contribution. go to the next panel, which it was really nice, by the way, to start with the topic, of course, of community. Are we ready to keep? We don't have a break right now, do we, Philippe? We just keep going. Yeah. It was very nice to start with community, the very people we serve, of course, because that should always be our focus. We're going to turn now to a panel which will focus on detection and monitoring of CBRN threats. Now, under Rescue, we are developing 3 streams of capabilities and stockpiles. We are developing decontamination capabilities, so like specialized teams and equipment, detection, surveillance, and monitoring capabilities, and CBRN stockpiles. Each one of those have posed different types of challenges. For example, in terms of the decontamination teams, when it comes to the German mass decontamination team, we have also like not just technical sort of challenges, but also, for example, logistic ones. We have convoys that measure 8.5 kilometers when deployed. So it's 8.5 kilometers of trucks, etc., that need to move to be able to decontaminate at the very least 220 people per hour, including 20 non-ambulant people. When it comes to stockpiles, you know, like a challenge that I can mention is the need to make sure that all the equipment, all the medical countermeasures that we are stocking actually are compatible with one another and follow the same guidelines. When it comes to the detection, surveillance, and monitoring capabilities that also cover surveillance, the challenge has been multiple, and personally, they have been the most challenging capability to think of before launching the call for proposals. We had to think on the one hand about the technical difficulties of and also like the evolving innovations that were going to be put in place, including during the time of the call for proposals. So we had to talk about innovation. We had to think about like the challenge of making sure that what we were developing was fit for novel threats that we haven't really seen yet. But also we had to think about other challenges like communication systems. We insisted on the fact that these new capabilities that are being developed by different member states would be talked to one another, would be a system of systems. And often, like what is less seen in the, you know, like when we talk about the challenges of detection, is also like how are we going to communicate? How are we going to get these different European teams to communicate with one another? I'm always keen to learn more about detection because it is an evolving field and it will keep going. And to that end, in Rescue, we have sometimes also included some slightly lower TRL solutions to make sure that we could support the detection of novel threats. So I'm particularly looking forward to welcoming on the stage Paul Thomas, who is going from Bioxero Ltd, who is going to moderate this panel, and panelists Stefan Manuel Lozano, Friedrich Aflenza, José Luis Pérez Díaz, and Eleftheris Ozonoglou. If they are in the room, that is.
Well, good afternoon. It is a delight to be back here once more. It's been a while. I can't say how pleased I am to be here because I'm beyond pleased to have the privilege of addressing you. My name is Paul Thomas. I've been doing chemical detection since 1985, and as I've grown in size and years, I've also had the chance to experience our development of several generations of capability. And where we are today, mind-boggling in what's going to be happening in
introduce your panel to you. I'm going to start with Stefano. Stefano is a junior associate at Fondazione SAFE. He's a defense and security specialist, and he focuses on innovative technologies. He is also a member of the NATO Science and Technology Research Task Group, so he has good horizon scanning capability already. So Manuel, unfortunately, I don't know where he is, and I don't know if we're going to be able to connect with him today, so I'll skip Manuel for now and see if the technology catches up with us. I'm not hopeful. So, Colonel Afenza, he is a project officer for CBRN, for the European Defence Agency. Now get this, Fritz has served as a CBRN specialist since his first command. Okay, he's a colonel now, so that is a huge amount of experience. Of real interest to this community has been his deployment to earthquake relief operations in Kashmir. When it comes to engaging with citizens, he probably knows more than most of us in the room put together. He's working with a CBRN Surveillance as a Service project, a demonstrator called CBRN SAAS, and this is open to all member states, and it is remote operating systems which are sensor-rich. So he has much to say about needs and future capabilities, I think. Auxiliary Perez from the St. Bernard project. When I first saw this, I was trying to think, is this some kind of European word that I'm not correct? St. Bernard is a big dog, right? Got it. So he leads multidisciplinary research at the Polytechnic School of Engineering, Universidad de Alcalá, with a focus on security. What's really important here is his experience in taking great ideas in intellectual property and spinning them out as industrial offers. So I've spent quite a lot of my life, not in a small company, but as a research academic and a head of department and a senior research professor. High in my academic power, I had a great view of the landscape, but I didn't know what it smelt like, and I didn't know what it felt like. So climbing down out of my tower and getting stuck into making things work at a commercial level in the day-to-day life of commerce has been a real eye-opener for me, a humbling experience, and one I'm delighted to have engaged in this, what I think will be my final chapter of my working life. We shall see. So with the counterfog innovation, where we're combining mixed physics, chemistry, properties of aerosols for sampling and decontamination, this is a really exciting and innovative development. So I'm looking forward to hearing about counterfog and the work of St. Bernard. And then finally, with me is Eleftherios. I'm working with Eleftherios as part of a project called Team Up. We'll tell us about that. I'm also working on another project called One Lab. But enough about me. You have been involved with machine learning for, I get about 14 years, which in computer years is 7 generations, thereabouts. So 7 generations of artificial intelligence on the stage beside me. I'm happy to be corrected, but as part of this use and adoption of machine-assisted decision-making, I'm really looking forward to your contributions as well. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming your panel. We'd like to come up and give you a 5-minute presentation. So, first of all, thank you, Paul, for introducing me and for introducing Project Mosaic. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I will provide a quick introduction of the project before jumping to the slides without somewhat more interesting. So, Mosaic is an EDF-funded initiative. The aim of the project is to provide a clear operational picture in the context of a chemical and biological events. We want to provide a 4D picture. Why 4D? Because we want to provide a 3D reconstruction of the environment documents regarding, for example, the procedures or how to interact with other users. So in this particular use case, the extended reality makes the most of the technology in order to provide more instruments to the operators to react in a quicker way, in a more efficient way. The second use case is robot control, and here we can really see the impact of the use of robotic vehicles, unmanned robotic vehicles, of course, in chemical and biological response. So we see that the human operators, this is a permissive environment, so there are still some human operators that have to access the correct functioning of the robotic components. And we see that on the field we also have a command center that is relaying data to the high-level, let's say, command center where the incident commander and the CBRN expert team is located. So there is this continuous data flow, again, regarding both the mapping of the environment and the mapping of threats, so that there is also continuous feedback from the incident commanders to the operators on the field. This one, remote collaboration in a non-permissive environment. So this is the most complicated use case scenario. Not only because we completely removed the human operators from the field, and thus the robotic vehicles are acting in an autonomous or semi-autonomous way, depending on the task they have indeed to perform, but also because we wanted to assume that the communication environment is also contested. And so, in the context of the project, we are also exploring ways to guarantee the continuous streaming of data, both to the robots in order to provide guidance on the task they had to perform, and to the center where the incident commander and the CBRN experts are located. So this was my brief overview. I wanted to concentrate on the operational aspects because this is also very important for the Mosaic project, and it is to provide results that can be used in an operational perspective and not just in a research perspective. You will find more generic information also on the website of the project, and with that I conclude my brief overview. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the possibility to explain our project, CBRN Surveillance as a Service. I was introduced as a military officer. Yes, I am. I'm working for the European Defense Agency, so it's quite clear. CBRN Surveillance as a Service is a military CBN capability that we can lay down. This idea of a CBRN Surveillance as a Service initiative came up 2018 around, and was then launched as a permanent structured cooperation project. In this PESCO project we have five member states: Austria, France, Hungary, Croatia and Slovenia. And it was quite clear from the beginning that the PESCO project will have two phases. Phase 1 is to achieve the initial operational capability by development of a technological demonstrator. And the phase 2 afterwards should be or will be to achieve the full operational capability. The PESCO initiative, PESCO project, runs since 2018 and will stop 27 or 28. After the PESCO idea came up, the member states asked the European Defense Agency to support the phase 2 with a Category B project. A Category B project is a project with a clear time frame, with additional money
from Austria, 4 from Slovenia, 2 from Hungary, and 1 from Croatia, and they established a consortium to develop a technological demonstrator with the money from the contributing member states. The consortium used the chance of the European Defence Industrial Development Programme and applied for the EDIDP call 2020 and called this proposal CBRN Reconnaissance Surveillance System. Different name, same topic. At the end of the day, we will have one technological demonstrator funded by the member states, by the 4 contributing member states, and funded by the EDIDP. Sorry. So this is the phase 1, to achieve the initial operational capability. On the one hand, we have the JET-B project from EDA with 3.6 million euros from the 4 contributing member states. On the other hand, we have the European Defence Industrial Development Programme with a funding about 6.7 million euros. Both together, the industry consortium will develop a technological demonstrator. In the EDIDP project, we have additional 3 companies, 2 from France and 1 from Denmark. So at the end of the day, the consortium has 15 companies from 6 European Union member states. And this is CBRN Surveillance as a Service. In the blue box, this is the technological demonstrator. This is what the industry is now developing. We have 3 unmanned systems, 1 small unmanned air vehicle, 1 larger unmanned air vehicle, and 1 big unmanned ground vehicle. All 3 of them are controlled by their control elements. Then we have a so-called common control element, and in the rear area we have the data fusion cell. The idea is that the unmanned systems, equipped with a lot of sensors, chemical sensors, radiological sensors, cameras, thermal cameras, standoff detectors, aerosol samplers, are sent in the possible hazard area to the reconnaissance surveillance task, send the data in lifetime via the common control element. This is also a relay station. The common control element to the data fusion cell in the rear area, about 50 kilometers in the rear. And in the data fusion cell, a software creates a recognized CBRN picture in real time. And this recognized CBRN picture should be used in a common operational picture. This is a military term, and military HQ is established. They have a common operational picture with all the information, enemy, armed forces, logistics, and there's also a CBRN card. And this picture from CBRN surveillance should support the military commander, but not only the military commander. If it is requested, it could also support civilian commanders, fire brigades, police forces. So therefore, the member states have defined 3 main scenarios for CBRN surveillance, and just one of the 3 is military. The first, the military support of forces, for example, the European battlegroup. The second main scenario is to support civilian authorities in a so-called high visibility event. For example, a high-level political meeting with CBR terroristic threats like Davos, or a football championship, or a Pope visit in the capital, where a lot of people are, where the civilian authority is in need, and there's a CBRN threat. And the third main scenario is to support countries or organizations in a main disaster with the release of CBR threats. So it could support the stricken country, but could also support national or multinational disaster relief units. These are the 3 main scenarios for CBRN SAS. We are currently in the testing phase. We have already 2 field tests in Hungary and Slovenia with a biological and radiological scenario. In March we will have the 3rd field test in Croatia, and in April the last field test in Austria with a chemical scenario, and after that the 3rd phase will
type of responders, including firefighters, including ambulance services, including even private security companies. It is something that it's not always coming to our mind, but in a critical infrastructure, in a metro station, probably in a CBRN incident, private security personnel will be the first one to identify one. And surely a lot of research institutes and SMEs quite experienced in the domain. What are the objectives? Firstly, to define a framework and analyze, as well as through this framework, advance the first responders' knowledge as well as operational competencies on CBRNe. And this to be done through knowledge sharing, through harmonized training, as well as through evaluating the capabilities as well as the technology in a way well intertwined as it is going to be actually designed in the project. What we want to focus, and since we are all experienced, at least several members of the consortium, in DRS projects, we want to see how we should redefine now our methodology, what should be first and what should be followed when it comes to training even ourselves, or even training the scientists, the researchers participating, the technology providers, to be trained firstly adequately to the domain. So this is what we want to focus. And here we have also special cases that we are not involving only the experts. Usually we are trying to involve in our projects the experts, those that they know the domain. In this case, and this was exactly the topic, and this made also quite interesting to respond to, is to involve also the non-experts. And we want to revisit this methodology. But following the definition of this methodology, to co-develop some functional tools to armor first responders, either on the one or the other side, with advanced detection, identification and monitoring tools, tools supporting the search and rescue in this context, in a CBRNe context, supporting triage and supporting decontamination, enjoying operational capabilities incorporated in what we call a toolkit. Validate also tools through a multi-level exercises, tests and trials. Also initiate pre-normative efforts, and this is an official, let's say, proposal to our sister projects and Bernard to go together on this, meaning we are planning for the CWA, and definitely we can go together on this, and also promote synergies as we are doing right now. You see here the overall architecture. We don't have the time to go into details. We hope, and I'm pretty sure that in the future we will have the opportunity to go into details. There is a big spectrum of different technologies and surely artificial intelligence to combine information coming from different sources. This includes definitely the detection, identification and Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Thank you. San Bernard is a short acronym we prepare for our system for safe biological, chemical, radiological, and nuclear assessment, rescue, and decontamination. There are three aspects: assessment of monitoring, of measuring what there is in the field. As it has been said before, the main problem of CBRNe is that it's invisible. They are usually invisible, and that's a handicap. But the key point here is the safe. Safe. We have to keep safe. And here in the proposal, we stated one of the paragraphs was the importance of being and it was mentioning the importance of being earnest, of Oscar Wilde. Earnest means serious. The importance of being serious with CBRN involves the importance of being explosive. And that means that we have things like that. You probably never thought that you would see something like this. And this is the second explosion after the first one in Beirut, because it was generated by the dust that was generated. This is in Taiwan. This is an explosion created by an organic volatile gas that traveled all along the subway and the underground and so on. So as you can see, there is a risk not only for the people that is there, but also for the first responders, and it's evident from this footage. You can see the firefighter truck that was there, and the risk. The risk of explosive atmosphere is really severe. This is an example, and sample of this. And another one, explosive atmospheres are everywhere. And you have to be careful because even static electricity or just a small hot point is enough to trigger that. So how can we send a drone, how can we send anybody there if we are not sure that we may be igniting the atmosphere? There are more techniques in San Bernard. These are the protests against Pedro Sanchez because he's associating with criminals, with convicted criminals of thieving public money and even terrorists, and he wants to provide an amnesty. It's 31 days protesting against him in Madrid, and this is the first day where the delegate of the government, not being ethical, used gas to disperse the crowd. You can see the effect of confusion just with pepper gas, but you can see how people, well, there was nothing even more serious thanks to that, but you see all eyes irritated, respiratory diseases, and we were fortunate that nothing more serious happened. But you can see also the use of gas just as a normal tool. This is completely unacceptable. Well, let's say that what happens if in a football stadium or in a crowded site there is not just pepper gas, but something more serious. What would be the effect? The effect would be really extensive and impactful. I mean, it would be really something that we don't to be there. So we need something fast, and we need something quick to have the first decontamination. The first decontamination must be absolutely fast. Here you can see some images of the kick-off meeting that we had in San Bernard, how we are trying, for instance, to have a tool of fast decontamination of massive number of people. We need not just the decontamination of one by one person, but massive number of people. We want to build a drone for explosive atmospheres. We want to create something to decontaminate the land, that is where the dust may be remaining and contaminated. And just to mention, we are going to make demonstrations in 7 different sites all along Europe, ranging from tunnels to ports, to buildings and different installations, including nuclear plants simulation. got some pre-prepared questions. In my defense, I have shared them with the panel. If they've done their homework, I'm not being unkind. So if you're thinking, ooh, Paul, that's a bit mean, they have been given fair warning. But I'm going to start with you, Ferris, if I may. So, sitting, standing, worrying in a command and control room for a large field technical exercise in Finland in 2019, I knew that the emergency services personnel would have one decision to make every 4 seconds for 2.5 hours. And I knew that the decisions that they were being asked to make were complicated and contradictory, and their prioritization, particularly on casualty triage, was going to be challenged every 15 minutes. And I saw the predictable confusion reign within their command structure, and we saw in real time mistakes and incorrect decisions being made on casualty treatment. This was entirely intentional for us to prove our casualty tracking technology. So, my question. I think the human needs as much help as he or she can get in making those life-changing, life-critical decisions throughout the evolution of a crisis. So, could you comment for us, please, on the potential and likely timeline, in your opinion, for algorithmic agents, artificial intelligence, to become point-of-need assistance to command and control teams?
Surely, Thomas, and many thanks for the question. I tried to make my homework, and actually I was hearing a lot of podcasts all these days, and I tried to hear them again in the plane with different ideas. There are many angles regarding this topic. It goes without saying, meaning that what you experience is something that we see also in many other projects as a need, as a demand. Meaning what you mentioned is also quite relevant to the Nightingale project that we also have the honor to coordinate when it comes to triage and medical assistance and decisions about medical assistance. But this includes any decision to be taken when it comes to disaster response. Even more when it comes to CBRN, and even more when you are uncertain on what exactly is happening and what should be the measures to be taken. Quite huge discussion has opened the last, let's say, 6 months or more after the arrival of ChatGPT and the application of artificial intelligence. And I don't know, I'm starting feeling old, although probably I'm the younger in this panel, but I'm starting feeling old because, back in my time that I started, using this term now, but I started studying what we were calling pattern recognition. Speaking about artificial intelligence was not, or even machine learning. You were able to understand things. You were even able to solve a neural network by your hand in a paper and to understand why the answer is being given. Now with ChatGPT, even their creators, they're saying that they are not fully able to understand. So we have to see and be clear and understand the difference between enhanced by AI rule-based models, meaning those that integrate curated knowledge, human intelligence, things that have been extracted by the experience of commanders, of responders, of doctors, and then probably enhanced by AI on some parameters and some details, compared to these large language models that we discussed today, and we expect that they are able to solve everything and give it. Yes, they are doing really well in some things. We have to remember, however, that they are based in human knowledge, and they are actually using this. A big difference here, compared to the success of ChatGPT and similar models, is that they have a lot of data. Something that we definitely miss in the security domain, we definitely miss in the pre-hospital support domain. We actually fight in Nightingale to find pre-hospital data, meaning vitals from patients in the field. Data when it comes to the use of resources, data when it comes to the availability of hospitals while the resources are being brought, while the situation is well understood, detections are more clear, etc., probably the decisions should be given back to human intelligence or having a combination. So to give an answer, I believe that we have a lot of road to cover firstly, and this includes the data collection, meaning it's absolutely needed, and I believe that we are not yet there in some quite important domains that include pre-hospital life support and include also CBRN.
Thank you so much. So I think the key terms for me in that response were the training is curated and overseen by experts, that the citizen has a vital and important role to say how much of that rules-based operation are we comfortable with, and are there legal, ethical aspects. Just a challenge for you all, if you use ChatGPT, why don't you try writing or asking it, provide me one page of guidelines for responding to a chemical emergency, and see what it tells you to do. Yeah. Just see, just put it in there and see what it tells. Because your 18-year-old who doesn't know what to do will do just that. And on top of that, it takes around about 15 minutes for Russia Today to start transmitting misinformation on a chemical incident, as happened in the Berlin Gap in the English Channel not so long ago. 15 minutes to the first social media lies being promulgated. Took 90 minutes for the emergency services on site to get their social media working. Right. Enough of that frightening dystopian future. Let's Stefano, you painted or showed this really exciting image of four-dimensional situational awareness. And I'm really interested to know what your thoughts are on how do you decide what sensors are to be emitted into that environment? What are the capabilities, sensor capabilities that the end user needs in informing your research, and how do you go about finding that out?
So I will start with considering, let's say, the generic capabilities that we want to implement. And those are guided by constant interactions in the context of EDF initiatives, but with constant interaction with the Ministry of Defense, and even more broadly, the paces set by the capability development plan and periodically by the capability development priorities. And in fact, when it comes to Mosaic, we were really happy to see even the 2023 iteration of the capability development priorities took into account 4 elements, 3 of which are thoroughly covered by the project I have the list here. So when it comes to enhanced sensor, for example, the priority for CBRN defense is to have more accurate sensors, but also cheaper, more compact in terms of dimension, power consumption, so on and so forth, capable of detecting more and more substances, and with less traces left on surfaces or in the environment by those substances. So specifically in the context of Mosaic, we are developing laser spectroscopy sensors, and we are trying with the miniaturization and enhanced accuracy of those sensors. So that would be the very specific answer. But there are other priorities highlighted by those capability development priorities. The second one is data networking, of course, and we have a remarkable example through the CBRN project, but also automation for the gathering of data. And in that context, sensors mounted on drones really do the trick, because it allows not
So I'm blown away by these aerial displays of drones creating dragons that fly through the air and change colour and breathe fire, and all of the other clever things that people are doing with these devices. Now give them sensors and make them operate in swarms so they can almost find the individual casualty and start to provide situational awareness for snatch rescue. I think that is an extraordinary prospect to see. But smaller, faster, cheaper, lighter, and then give it wings. Right. So we've heard two responses there. To my friends and colleagues on the panel, do you have any supplementary points you want to make on artificial intelligence and what we need?
I would like to point out that I fully agree that this must be something that Europe has to undertake by its own, because it's quite sensitive, and otherwise you wouldn't be never sure that the cybersecurity in your process, that what you are measuring is exactly what you are getting at your base. And second, I would like to comment about the use of drones. The use of drones, in principle, it seems straightforward. You send the drone, you just provide the sensor, you just send the drone, and that's it. But there are two issues. The first one is that nobody wants to lose their drones. So if you send your drone into a hot zone that is contaminated with CBRN, nobody knows how to decontaminate it and not spoiling the drone. That's the first issue. And the second issue is that if it's explosive, you may be igniting the explosive atmosphere with the drone itself. Because the drone has conventional drones, they have high current, they have hot spots and facts that make them unsuitable for explosive. That is one of the objectives we have, is to develop motors and the basic elements for drones compatible with explosive atmospheres, so that we may be sure that we are not going to trigger explosion, at least us. It's not us.
As Stefano mentioned, we were tasked by the member states for the capability development revision, and I'm quite happy that CBRN Defense is back. On the one hand, I'm happy that CBRN Defense is back as a European capability priority, but on the other hand, CBRN Defense is back. Why? We have CBRN threats in Europe, and this is not, I'm not so happy for that. So we all together have to look for the end users. Who are the boots on the ground? What are they doing? They must be protected. We need easy to use handheld identification, not just detection, identification systems. We need, of course, unmanned systems, but really be easy to use. They're not full academics that work on the field. They're corporals or firemen. They do their job very good and they're well trained. But if you have to not to be too scientific and too academic in our approach and in the development. We have to really look on the end users, and AI will come. And very, very important in Europe is not a chip, is the data transfer. We have no data transfer for CBRN data. If something happens in a country, you can do it like in the 80s. You take the cell phone or the telephone and call your neighbor. I have a measurement somewhere. There's no data transmission, there's no data transfer regularly. So this is one of the priorities, yes, it is, but this is when we should work. It's not for the military, this is for everyone. That before CBRN threat make no difference between civil and operations. Okay, so expensive, highly capable technology, sending it into a hot zone, maybe not so bright. Maybe thought needs to be given to best ways of using and applying this technology in the short term. How's it to be deployed? Where's it to be sent? Certainly for mission protection deployments, I can see that. Is your cold zone really that cold? Wind changing? So that's the kind of thing that I can see. But you're absolutely right. And just the friction of the rotor blades in a dusty atmosphere is enough to get things going. Even the spark in someone's static on their hair can really create disaster. data transfer. Ooh, you and me, we could drink many beers together while discussing data transfer issues. Every single exercise that I've participated in has been dominated first and foremost by issues of data transfer. So no matter how skilled or clever or dedicated your communications teams are, they always need more time, more resources and encouragement if data is going to flow freely between the various systems, for sure. We talked earlier about involving citizens in research, and I just going to take advantage of this to say we included some wheelchair users with wheelchair user observers in an exercise. And what came abundantly clear to me, particularly studying the videos after the event, was how in the event of an evacuation, the wheelchair users and their assistants automatically went to the back of the line. That they were the last people to leave the zone to be evacuated. And the assistant was actually this is military personnel. They were physically capable, but they could not evacuate their charge before everyone else had left the space, for sure. And then the question arises, given that they're going to be held back in the hot zone and contaminated area, should the assistant stay with the person they're supposed to be assisting, or should they evacuate? Certainly in my work in studies of poisonous gases and hazardous gas atmospheres, the rule was always, if you're unprotected in a hazardous atmosphere, you must evacuate. You must never stop to assist someone else until you have respiratory protection. And there are many classic cases where people turn back to help their friends, their brothers, their family, and became secondary and even tertiary casualties in those events. So there's a whole host of real insight to be gained by including such observers and people in your studies, and we learned a huge amount from them. It was very humbling. They're so determined to communicate with us, and some of them had significant speech impediments, but their intelligence and their observations were absolutely first class, sharp, and vitally useful to informing our thinking and progressing our work in this area. I commend to you Notes Stavropoulos from National Technical University of Athens for leading that particular study. Well, I'm going to move on now, and Jose, could you please advise our audience on what you think are the best steps to take in a project while the project is still active, from moving from idea to actuality, to making things happen in the commercial sense, to delivering ideas into products? What's your main points of advice for us, please?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. That's quite difficult, because something that you think that may be really interesting, practical, and useful for any of these cases, maybe not so straightforward to be commercialized. We found during pandemics it was a good time for testing this kind of during pandemics we realized that in many cases responsibles of institutions but responsibles of institutions were not worried about the safety of the workers or even the users of their services. They were just worried about keeping everything calm and not being removed from the seat. And that's the real part. So what they wanted, something just to show that they did something. So some kind of solutions that were something like miracles were used. But they didn't really care about the actual fact that something worked or not. So what I think that is the hardest point here is to move to something that must be given, let's say by default, that is, you need to test. You need to test procedures, you need to test technologies, you need to test everything before, let's say, saying that it's useful for something. So that is, for me, it's a key point, but it's quite hard to go to the market while there is not such a conscience of needing something that really works. In pandemics, we were all witness of many actions that were completely useless. You remember when everybody was washing the goods that had purchased in the shop and these kind of things that were perfectly useless. I think that the hardest point is for mentality, and also to reach the point that the people may understand that is really a need or maybe a need. I would say
Well, yes, test, and testing. We've heard that before in a different context, the test message. But certainly in my current work, we've got a device. I think it works beautifully. Yeah? But I now have to test it, and test it, and test it. And I have to try and break it in every possible conceivable way I can imagine, and then give it to other people to see if they can outdo me in how they can break it. And if I go to capital and I say, I want a lot of money to see if my system works and see if it can be broken, they'll say, well, come back when you've done that work. And so we fall into the valley of death. And to actually go from proof of concept and exciting possibility to actuality, you're saying it's that quality systems, it's that test. So I think perhaps there's something there for us as we're writing our next consortium bids and proposals to think about the need for setting up great ideas to transition out of the project to make sure that pathway of testing and quality assurance and reliability is embedded. And we perhaps need to speak to our reviewers and say, yeah, we know it doesn't sound very interesting, but it's fundamentally vital if this thing's going to actually translate into a deliverable product.
That, for instance, during pandemics, we act in emergency mode. Let's say that we didn't have procedures. We had our counterpart technology was ready for application, but we didn't have the procedures. We have tested it in laboratory, even in let's say, in real environments, but we didn't have the exact procedures for instance, how to decontaminate an ambulance. So we improvise that. So fortunately, in Sambana, we will have the opportunity to test how long we have to be decontaminating it, what are the best biocides to use them, how intensive must be the application, and so on. So we are going not to be blind. That is the worst thing that we have in CBRN. We are blind and we don't see the agent, and we cannot see if it's still there, or we have still to be decontaminating it. Well, that's sort of the results wouldn't be used effectively and efficiently, and we would be losing them. So it's essential for us to be in the right position, to be safe, but not to be wasting our resources.
Well, Fritz, you, I think, have the most operational experience of us all in this area, so I thought I'd leave the last question, the last word to you, so to speak. So I'd like to invite you, what you think, given your privileged insight behind closed doors and elsewhere, what you can share with us are the development priorities for CBRNe sensing capability detection and monitoring. What do you think, if you had $1 or €1 to spend on detection, identification, monitoring, where would you place it? What would you do with it?
I think that there would be a lot to do. We are not bad on this subject. The industry provided us with a very good equipment and solutions. The armed forces and also the civilian organizations who are dealing with civilian defense are well equipped and trained to do it. But as I said before, we need easy to use handheld identification systems for our units on retire the days of
So emphasizing the need for interoperability at the level of data. I think that's what I'm getting. So joint services, joint data, joint access to data. And then what do you do with the waste? How do you manage the waste? Of which there will be a huge amount. Any other contributions on what we just heard from the rest of the panel? Do either of you just comment in our project? We are minimizing the waste. We know that the counterpart technology enables us to use micro-sized droplets or even micro-sized droplets, and that means an enormous saving of the contaminant we are using and, of course, of the waste that you are using. So we try to go in that direction of minimizing the waste and also to acting, if it's possible, also to act even if you don't know exactly what substance you are in front of. So that's sort of, as it's based on physical properties, you would collapse everything. Later you can act, but at least you are preventing breathing, and that would be at least the first action that you could make immediately, not just waiting to be. So I'm acutely aware, that on the panel you've got 5 white men. I'd really like to open the discussion up to the floor, and I'd like some diversity of voices, differences of opinion, other ideas. So I'll just give you a few moments to collect your thoughts, but I really do invite contributions from everybody. So if you're thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't, I think maybe you should. Just to remind you, we're interested in the role of machine agents, software agents in decision-making or assisting decision-making. How do you get great ideas commercialized out of projects? What are the priorities? What are the priorities for next-generation sensors? And what are the operational needs in detection, identification, and monitoring? So this is where my heart is in my mouth as I look, and I see hands going up. So, all right.
Thank you. So one of the speakers mentioned, sorry I don't remember who exactly, that certain type of biosensors are also tested within CBRN data networks. Would you name it, please, if it's not a secret or not confidential, what type of biodetection approaches would you test within the project?
I think you're referring to Mosaic. So they are currently under development, and aside from the ones I already quoted, I much prefer not to go into too much detail. Of course, when it comes to biodetection, the problem is that we need a response in a faster way, definitely, and more precise, because operators on the field cannot afford, especially in a contested environment, they cannot afford to lose valuable time while waiting for the reach-back capability to provide definite answer. And so this is something we are confronted with, even keeping in mind that most of the times to collect a valuable sample of a biologic threat, the procedure is much more complicated. So those are some obstacles that we are indeed experiencing, and we are positive about the solution of it. Keeping in mind that probably that would be the most difficult part in terms of sensors evolution. Some years ago I was at a CBRN briefing at Royal Military College Shrivenham in the UK, and a very charismatic young Singaporean PhD student stands up and he asks the same question of the audience. He says, put your hands up if you had €1 to spend, would you spend it on chemical detection? Not a single hand went up. Everyone was happy with it. What about explosives? No, we're good, thanks, that's fine. And then the next one he said, well, what about biology? And the hands went up, every hand in the room. We're talking about senior directors of research programs from all over the world, to which he says, well, I did the biology to my PhD then. So it remains true then and it remains true today. The greatest technological challenge in this space is biodetection. And it's such a wide and diverse thing. The problems with biodetection is they take a while to take effect, and people travel, and the things can grow and develop. The differential element of it is that the hazard becomes more intense with time. It doesn't get diluted the further you move away from the source. It just grows and develops and changes.